The Beaufort County Board of Education agenda setting meeting for April 23rd is now called to order. Do we have a motion to approve the agenda?
I move we approve the agenda.
Do we have a second?
And we are approving the agenda for the work session 1.
No, we're approving the agenda for this meeting right here. For the agenda setting meeting.
William, it's where it says A, B, C, D, E, F.
Right, Right,
That's
yeah,
your
I
agenda.
got you. Yeah, I got it, Robin. Approve.
Okay, so
Second,
you
excuse me, second.
second. Any discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
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 I marked you all unanimous.
Correct.
Okay.
So we will now have the Pledge of Allegiance. Are you going to put up a flag?
Um,
One is in there.
my-
It's on B.
It's in board doc.
Oh yeah, it's in board docs on B.
Yeah.
Well, we'll go ahead.
We'll
go
just,
ahead. I can't.
Yeah.
There it
I
goes.
pledge of
There it
allegiance.
goes. I got it. Go ahead.
I pledge of allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. The media has been properly notified. We are on to the approval of the committee meeting minutes for April 2. Is there? a
I
motion
move that
to
we
approve?
approve the committee meeting minutes from April 2nd.
I second it.
Okay, any discussion? All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
William, are you approving it?
I said aye.
Next on the agenda is the April 13th meeting minutes. Do we have a motion to approve?
I move we approve the minutes from April 13th.
Mr. Smith?
Actually, I was just fine tuning. Also, was there in the highlights of this of the meeting, did we not vote about the personnel matter that asked to be on the agenda? I
Mr.
thought we
Smith?
got- Yes, yes,
Mr.
ma'am.
Smith, we need a second to discuss the.
Oh,
the
second.
minutes.
Oh,
Okay.
second.
So yes, look at the minutes of April 13. It's on there.
No, we did not vote because the motion wasn't seconded.
Seconded,
Okay, thank you.
but it's on there.
No, I'm reading it. I see that it's on there, but I was just wondering, did we vote? I was trying to just make sure that we did not.
Okay,
That's all. Thank you.
you're welcome. Any further discussion? All
No.
those in favor, please say aye. Aye.
Aye.
Aye.
All right. Now we're on to setting the May 1st, second work session agenda meeting. And Okay.
I'm getting there.
Yep, I know you are. I have a paper version in front of me, but I see that you don't have anything there yet.
Okay. Can you all see it?
Yes, thank you.
I have, this meeting will be live streamed. I have not confirmed that with Scott yet, so I don't know if they'll be able to live stream our meeting next Friday or not, but I should have an answer tomorrow.
Okay. And if it's not live streamed, it will be recorded, correct?
Correct.
Okay.
Yes.
All right. So if we go down to the agenda portion, yep, thank you. We have the meeting starting at 9, concluding at 4 with a half-an-hour lunch break. And this is by video conferencing again, remotely. Obviously, the first thing would be approval of agenda, the typical Pledge of Allegiance, moment of silence, statement of media notification, our public comments section, and then the consent agenda for the board meeting minutes with the changes that were not approved or not, it wasn't voted on last time. We sent it to this meeting. At 9:30 to 10:30. So these are estimates, right, Robin, of what you
Yes.
thought? Yeah.
Yes, those are just estimates. I was just trying to get a feel. Everything is, you can adjust because I didn't have a clue of how long each thing was going to take. So I just put things on there for us to move around.
And then the next is board committee discussion. Ms. Tricia Fidrich submitted this request for the agenda. And those were the bullet points that were included in her email that the officers received.
Also, I was wondering why focus on PEs only. When we say focus on committees, I believe committees, why only PEs?
Well, William, that will be the discussion that we have at the meeting. So
right, but what I'm afraid of is that we said, or if we put on the agenda only PEs, if someone wants to bring up an AR, then that will not be allowed because it's not on the agenda.
I don't think so, because it's got a question mark there with PEs. That was her question, but it says focus of committees is one of the highlights, I guess you'd say, or bullet points. What do you think, Kathy?
Yeah, I think the focus of committees is pretty broad, and that allows discussion on what the committee should focus on. I see Miss Fidrich is here. Perhaps she would like to say what, chime in. She has to be unmuted. Does Molly have to unmute her? Yep, I see. Trisha shaking her head.
Sorry, I'm trying.
Okay.
Oh.
Okay. Yes, when I sent this request, the things I put in parentheses were just some of the questions I had. The focus of committees, what I thought we would do is talk about the range of what committees focus on. But I had a question, are we just going to do the PEs until the policy committee makes a recommendation to the board about the policies? So in parentheses were just some thoughts that I had, not to try to narrow the focus of the conversation.
Ms. Zorshak?
So I'm sorry, I had my hand up for a while. It goes back at the beginning of the agenda approval. I just wanted to mention that if we're not live streaming, if we don't have that ability and we find that out, that's the equivalent of holding a private meeting. The public has to be able to participate through live streaming, since we're not gathering somewhere for them to actually attend.
Well, Ms. Zorshak, I can answer that for you. Yes, if it's not live streamed by the county channel, they'll be allowed in the waiting room. The public will be allowed in the waiting room like we are doing for this meeting. For example, I saw Rachel Jones is present, and so she's observing or listening, I guess you'd say, but is muted. And so that's what we've done for the agenda setting meetings. It would be done the same way.
Oh, okay, so the agenda setting meetings have not been live streamed.
Not the last, or I don't
No, they
know.
have
I'll
not.
let Robin
Okay.
answer that.
No, they have not been live streamed.
Okay, so Robin, the public, would you just briefly explain, forgive me, I'm not as well versed as I should be on Zoom. How does the public, how do the masses join in via Zoom if we're not live streaming, they're not watching it on their television or computer?
They have, when I send out the agenda, the
Yeah.
link is attached to the agenda. And as you can see, we have public who are watching or who are listening. They just cannot participate by, they're muted. But you do have public participating as we speak now.
Excellent, thank you for clarifying, I appreciate that.
Madam Chair?
Yes, go ahead.
So, I mean, it might be a better idea to just take away the things that I have in question marks, you know, like the parentheses, and just have focus of committees, meeting dates, venue, possible change of committee members, or, you know what I mean? Take away the things that I wrote in parentheses. I didn't expect those necessarily to be put on the agenda.
Yeah, that sounds fine. So there's no question of that it's not going to be limited to what's in the parentheses. Right. Yeah.
Right.
And you could also have a fifth bullet that just says and other matters, you know, regarding board committees. So Ms. Orshak, could you please take your hand down?
Oh, yes, I can.
Thank you.
Thank you for putting that on the agenda. That's important.
All right, and you can move on to the next item, which is the efficiency study.
I have a question.
Yes, go ahead.
Is an hour enough time for that?
That seems about right to me. Kathy or William?
I think so, if those are the things that we're talking about.
Yeah, it may go over a little possibly, but I imagine not too much more. But that should be fine. We have 2 days, so.
Okay. Moving on.
Joanne's hand is back up.
Okay.
Thanks,
Mr. Smith.
So maybe I would think maybe just a little more time on this, only because, you know, input times 11 is, you know, that adds a lot of length as is. But these are topics that I know we've been wanting to discuss for some time. Again, I appreciate Tricia bringing this forward. And it may take a little beyond the hour, perhaps. Just a suggestion. It's up to you guys, obviously, but.
My suggestion might be right now to leave it an hour and continue on the agenda and see what we end up with other areas.
I mean, well, the question will come in if we at 10:30, are we trying to stop it, or will we continue until we finish it? I mean, if so, then I would say, well, let's go from 9:30 to 11. The
problem, well, a couple things, William. So if we say we're going to only talk about those topics during that interval, it's one, it could cut the conversation off, and two, we may be left with blocks of time in between the topics. So I think it's better to have these. We can just say some disclaimer at the beginning, say that these are the time estimates or something like that, because I can tell you when we're going to get to the 11:30 speaker, right, she's already told me 45 minutes. So there's 15 minutes right there.
Gotcha. Okay.
So next is the efficiency study. Dr. Rodriguez, do you think an hour is appropriate?
I do.
Okay.
That's a wide range of on the efficiency study. Is Dr. Rodriguez, what is exactly, is he going over it, or is he, or are we discussing, or is he bringing forth what he sees from it?
I'm going to let him answer. He's right here.
A little bit of both, Mr. Smith. I'm gonna talk with the board about the efficiency study and what I see as specific needs that we can draw from it for our system.
Because I think that efficiency study is going to take longer than an hour.
Well,
I mean, because that's a lot of information to digest, and as well to have Q&A. I can see at least 40 minutes on Q&A. Kathy, you have something you want to say?
yes, I had my hand up, so I was just.
Sorry, go ahead.
Yeah. The efficiency study's been presented to us by the people that did the study. So this is, in preparation for the meeting, I would assume that people would look at that study again. This is Dr. Rodriguez's response to that study. And until we hear his response, we don't know what the next step will be, what the next steps will be. So I anticipate that this would be hearing his response and outlining some next steps or determining some next steps. I may be wrong, but that would be my interpretation about what would be happening during this time. We're not rehashing the study. We've already gotten the study from the company that we paid to do it. And he will, we asked him when it was presented to us to determine, how he feels that this helped him or helped us, and to give us that viewpoint. That's my comment.
Ms. Orshak?
Dr. Rodriguez, would you be certain to include in your points how the hiring freeze in our budget update from Tanya at our last meeting plays into the efficiency study?
Sure.
Thank you. Taking my hand down.
Okay, thank you.
Thanks.
All right. So if we take 15 minutes from, so I've reached out to Lynn Stokes Murray since we have hired her as our legislative lobbyist, and I've asked her to come via Zoom to this meeting. And she told me it would be about a 45-minute, she thought it would be 45 minutes, maybe 15 minutes or 20 minutes of presentation, and then allow a good amount of time for questions too. And I wanted to be sure she was available. So that's why I reached out to her. So if we take 15 minutes from there, we could switch the time, we could add 15 minutes to the committee discussion.
Got you.
Did you hear that, Robin?
Yes, ma'am.
So can you adjust those times? You don't have to right now, but you.
I can't do it now, but I will.
No, I know you can't. So
okay,
just take notes, please.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. All right, we'll have go ahead.
I assume we're going to have to get a rather specific time for the Lynn Stokes Murray to jump in, right?
Yes, she told me she was available all that morning, and I asked her if she had a preference for time, and she really didn't. So
okay.
I think what we will tell her then, she'll be coming on then now at 11:45.
45. Okay.
And why don't we just give her that time? And if, let's say, for example, if Dr. Rodriguez hasn't quite finished his efficiency study, let her do her thing, and then we can come back to that.
Got it. Yeah.
Perfect.
Okay. So then another then first topic after lunch is the 8% projects. And because of the state of emergency, the operations committee had not finished vetting the list, but we really felt this and was important for the board to weigh in on, especially in terms of determining the budget. And I'd like I'd like David to address this since he is on this call.
Oh, okay. Yeah, we took one run at it. We gave Robert direction to go back and get the total under 20 million, which is our target every year. So this presentation will be him showing the full board what the 8% projects look like under 20 million.
Thank you.
You know, there was really no reason to bring that back to the ops committee. Might as well just go straight to the board with that.
So that was your recommendation, David?
Yeah, because I didn't think it needed to wait, you know, for us to have another operations committee meeting, which might be a week or 2 weeks from now. It just seemed, and I think we said that in the last ops meeting. You know,
I don't remember that, but okay.
Yeah, just bring it straight forward to the full board, and the full board can, you know, weigh in on it.
Okay, I remember saying that, but yeah, okay. I mean, yeah, I get what you're saying, but yeah, I don't remember saying that. But so basically, once this comes before the full board, then we're done. We're done with it.
Oh well, the board will make recommendations, I believe.
So
Same as we do in the ops committee. You know, the full board will do the same thing.
So, but if we're going back to our regular committees, then me personally, I think that we're jumping the gun, because if we're going back to regular committees, I think it should go to operations, and then after we get done with it, we say we've done the final piece to it. Then I think that then we should send to the other board. I think that we're jumping. I think that we're jumping the chain of command. I mean, that's just my opinion on it.
So do you know, in the past when we've approved the 8% projects, David or Joanne? What month?
What month? Oh, I don't know.
What is Robert said?
Is Robert on here?
No.
No, but I can
Maybe.
double check.
Thank you. I think it's been usually, but I might be wrong. I was thinking that it was normally now at this work session in April.
I think you're right. I think it's usually around this time, but I don't know the exact date. Now, Robert feels a sense of urgency about it, so.
He always feels a sense of urgency.
I know,
no
but
disrespect.
Robert, this is Frank. What time?
He always does it.
Year do we?
If he didn't, then that would be understandable, David.
The 8%.
But every time they bring his office brings something, there's always a emergency, an extreme emergency.
That's when it gets approved. And so it gets determined and approved. Okay. All right. Thanks. Bye-bye. Robert said typically it's done in May and approved by the first meeting in June, he said. Before.
So what's the will of the officers? Do you want to leave it here and have the board do it? I think it kind of gets important with our budget discussion because, you know, these would be the projects next summer, and our budget's going to be very weird this year with, you know, this whole I guess you'd say influence or whatever of the coronavirus. And so to me, it seems like the sooner we have the 8% projects, you know, nailed down, or whatever word you want to use, and the amount of funding that's available. Like in the past, it was always approximately 20 million, but maybe now the recommendation is going to be only spend 10 million. I mean, I don't know. What's your thoughts, Kathy?
Well, I'm wondering, is there any reason that we can't discuss it as a full board and raise questions, and then with the operations committee could take it back and look at it again? I mean, it's not that we don't have to do any action at this point. We're just looking at it and getting some more eyes on it, and then the operations committee could of course continue to work on it. I don't see any reason not to have everyone look at it at this point.
Well, my only thing is that with all due respect, the point of having committees, I think that we're getting in the committee work, and I think that if we have a committee that was already working on it, then it's not an emergency. And I think that the committee should do the work on it, and that's the committee's job. You know, I think us doing the work on it. The reason why we have committees is so different things can get done, so that we don't have to bring it to the full body. And we bring it to the full body, then it's much more. We've cut some fat on it, and it's ready to go. The last time we bought one from Robert Outing, did it pass, or did he have to go back to work on it again, David?
I don't remember.
Is this a PE?
No, this is the
No.
8% money.
Yeah, I know.
This is the
Not a
budget.
PE, not a PE.
Right. The last time, if my memory serves me correctly, I believe the last time he brought it up, the board looked at it. The board didn't have a problem with it after we did the work on it. I believe it was unanimous in committee, and it was approved by the board.
Mhm.
So I mean, I'm just wondering, why did we move it? Why did we move it from the actual committee straight to the to the board, and we just voted to go back into committee work? I'm just wondering why it's not going to committee. Why is it not going to committee and it's coming straight to the board?
I don't see any downside to bringing it to the full board.
Yeah.
I really don't. And if the board says, hey, we don't want to deal with it, we want to send it back to committee, then they can do that.
Do you want to take a vote? Somebody make a motion?
Well, my motion would be to bring the fiscal year 2021, 22, 8% projects, suggested projects to the board at the work session. My motion would be to keep it on the agenda, I guess.
Okay, and William, do you want to second that or no?
No, ma'am, I'm not going to second that.
All right, I'll second it. And I think we've already pretty much had the discussion. Any further discussion? Ms. Orchak?
None other than I just try to keep chain of command, but that's fine.
Well, I think at this point, the last directive we had for the committees was the committees were to be working on PEs. That's what their focus was. You know, I know we're going to talk about that previous to actually talking about this. I mean, that's on the agenda. But I believe the last official direction we received was that while we're making this transition, that the committee's job was to focus on the PEs that fell under their purview. That's why I asked if this was a PE.
Okay.
Call for the vote.
Yep. Okay. All those in favor? Aye.
I believe I would have to do that, being that you passed the gavel, didn't you? Because you seconded the motion.
Okay, yeah, go ahead.
Okay,
Call for the vote.
okay.
Everyone in favor of it?
Aye.
Aye.
Nays? All right, if the motion passes 2-1.
2-1.
And which are you, and you're a nay or an abstention, William?
Actually, since I'll be an extension.
Okay. All right. Ms. Orchak?
I'm sorry, it would have been input prior to the vote.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. The two next big item on the budget is the budget update by Tanya, and this will be about a week and a half from now. So hopefully she'll have more information. Do you have any comments, Dr. Rodriguez?
No, I think that's what we're trying to obviously get more information that we can bring back to the board by then. So I think that's the importance of it there.
Okay. All right. Those were the topics that we had for the work session. Do you have others, William or Kathy?
No.
Oops.
No, not at this moment. No, not at this moment. I don't have any other topics.
Okay. All right.
Hands up.
Okay, thank you. Ms. Orshak?
Thank you. Tina, Kathy, Will. Any more? I know they had to go back and rework the numbers on the impact fees, but is there any chance we might get an update at our work session?
I think we should, I have no personal knowledge of that whatsoever. I think, you know, the last thing we had left it with the impact fees was we were going to have a full board meeting with the full county council regarding the impact fees. And I have reached back out to them to see, you know, when we're going to do that. We have not heard back still. So, you know, I don't know if there would be information now, and maybe Dr. Rodriguez knows more about this than I do. Probably does.
You know, I can reach out to Ashley Jacobs and see if there's any news on that end to find out about that.
Thank you. Much appreciated.
Yeah, because the next step in the process was that meeting, was to be that
Yeah,
we had the presentation on impact fees, and the next step in that process was for us to meet with the full, and the board decided they wanted to do a full meeting, full board with full county council. We had at one point identified a couple dates.
Yeah.
I think Robin had, and then COVID arrived. So I think that's where we are.
Yes.
If we're following that process still, then that's where we are.
Yeah, a lot of things have stalled. Thank you.
Mr.
Because
Stribinger?
of the virus. Oh, one more suggestion.
Oh, your hand was down.
I'm sorry, put it back up. But I'll wait my turn.
Mr.
Okay.
Stribinger needs to be unmuted.
You did.
Now I can do it myself.
Yay.
Yeah, I couldn't before for some reason. I just sent an email today that we had that maintenance contract that just kind of hung in the air. And I think
Yes,
we need to vote that up or down. I don't know whether it's this meeting or the next board meeting, but I don't think Robert knows what to do because we didn't give him any direction. It just kind of laid on the table, so to speak. So I don't know if you want to put it on this work session or if you want to put it in the following board thing, but we need to give him direction. If it gets voted down, he's going to have to do something.
And Dr. Rodriguez can.
Yeah, I agree. I think that's what we need. As we left, you know, when we left the meeting, there was no direction on which way to go.
So would we need additional time in executive session? Is there other information that we need to hear about, or
Yeah,
would it be just a public discussion?
I think you know, that's probably, I need to talk to Wendy about that, but I do agree that it needs to go on you know, on either this one or the May 5th, and the sooner the better. But
Okay. Ms. Orshak?
So 2 points, they both pertain to Mr. Otting's presentations. No one was willing to make a motion.
Exactly.
We had the recommendation in front of us. I've never seen that before in my entire time on the board. Maybe Mr. Campbell has. That's number one. Number two, when Robert gives his update on the 8% projects, just a heads up, I like to give advance warning. If he could provide some updates about the availability of the status of the workforce. I mean, are all of our folks doing these projects? Are they available? What are, you know, so something that speaks to that, if possible.
okay.
Thank you.
Other thing I would say is that since we're talking about the request for the maintenance contract back on the agenda, I followed up on some of the information that was discussed back and forth. And I think that some clarification around some of that would be important for the board to have. So
do you want to have a discussion, obviously, with Ms. Cartledge to decide how that should be handled?
yes.
Okay. So my recommendation would be to start the meeting at 8:30 with executive session if necessary.
Yes.
Also, actually, I think that the board sent a clear message when no one made the motion, because the chair also said, did any other board member want to make a motion? And the motion was not seconded, nor was the motion made. So I thought that was a clear motion within itself that the board did not want to respond on that motion. So I think for us to go back on that, I think that we would be doing that injustice, because that topic was already discussed, and the chair said at some point, she said, did anyone on the board want to make a motion to move this agenda forward, and no one responded, and she paused and she gave it a second. So I don't think that we should revisit this topic, because this topic has already been visited and it's been vetted. So I think we'll be going backwards on that. I don't think that we should do it. I hear what David said, but unfortunately, I think the board has already told him. We have already instructed Dr. Rodriguez that the board was obviously at that time unhappy with that contract. So let's have something else different.
Excuse me, I'm going to let Dr. Rodriguez answer.
I'm not finished.
Remember, we're just setting the agenda here. We're not having discussion.
Right.
And I'm talking about putting something on the agenda that I don't believe it deserves to be on the agenda, because it was already on the last agenda, and no one saw it important enough to make a motion on it.
We've done that before. One other time, we came out and didn't make a motion, and we had to go back and do it. So.
Go ahead.
Dr. Rodriguez.
So I would just say a couple of things. The board speaks with a vote. That's how it directs the staff and the administration to move forward. So if, number one, I guess if the board wanted to vote it down, they can vote it down. If the board wanted to approve it, they can approve it. But I think additionally, it would be important for everybody to have a full understanding of what each vote would mean. For the system, so that everybody would be informed with what each vote would mean either way.
Mr. Stribinger?
Yeah, I think we need to vote it up or down to give clear direction. If we vote it down, I think that automatically tells Robert to go to the next bidder. If we leave it now, I don't think we've told him to do that. So, and I don't think it's going to take much time. So it'll probably take less time than this debate.
All right. Kathy?
I would like to go back into executive session to have some, a little bit of discussion about this. I have thought of additional questions I'd like to ask. And, I just think that I would like to go back into executive session to discuss this. And then I do feel like we need to come out and vote.
I agree with you, Kathy. That would be my preference as well.
My question would be, well, what about this contract would warrant us talking about in the executive session versus public? Because we've already discussed it in the executive session. So what would warrant for us to go, on what grounds would we go back in executive session?
Kathy,
what would be the underlying information that would call for us?
Joanne's raising her hand.
Okay. Do you want to respond, Kathy, or no?
Well, I think the questions I have to be asked in an executive session. It's still about the contract. I mean, we're still discussing the contract.
Ms. Orszak?
And, acknowledging what Dr. Rodriguez said, clearly there's additional information that we did not receive or received clearly the first time around when it was up for a vote and recommendation. So I would suggest an executive session.
Agree. All right, so that would be putting the exec, I would recommend putting the exec, we can put it at 8:30 or we can put it at 4 o'clock.
4 o'clock.
Kathy?
I would put it at the beginning of the day because I think people are more vital at the beginning of the day, but it doesn't matter to me, whatever. If William, do you have a specific reason you'd rather have it at the end?
I just don't see, I really don't think that our meeting should be going at, we should be, I prefer that to be meeting at 8 o'clock or 8:30 in the morning. I prefer that afternoon or something, not no earlier than in 8. I mean, earlier than 9. So maybe everything on the agenda needs to be moved down, but not 8:30 executive session.
I think we've done that in the past. I may be wrong, but
No, we have, but we've also been at the actual district office as well.
I know this is even easier. We're all in our homes.
That's no problem.
So
y'all want to do the 8:30? That's no problem. We can do the 8:30. That's fine.
yeah, that would be my preference, but I'm, if there's some reason why we can't do it 8:30, I'm fine to do it at 4. But if you're good with 8:30, let's go with that. Because that's usually when we have our executive session, is before the meeting, as opposed
right.
to
And in the past, I've also said I didn't like starting at 8:30. I prefer starting at 9, not 8:30. I believe that has always been my that has always been my take. I prefer start at 9 o'clock, not 8:30.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah.
Ms. Orshak?
Just one confirmation. I want to acknowledge Kathy's comment. She is correct. There was a set of minutes that no one offered a motion to approve. But what I was speaking to, and I didn't make it clear, is that I've never seen ever a contract recommended by senior staff brought before the board without a motion to adopt or accept. So I just wanted to be clear on that, and you are correct.
No need.
You are correct.
I think there might have been another time too with one of the referendum contractors, correct, Dr. Rodriguez?
That's correct.
Yeah.
We were actually at Hilton Head Library, I believe.
Yeah,
Mhm.
so that's another one time.
Yeah.
All right, so I think it seems like we've covered this agenda. Now we're ready to move on to the May 5th.
Mhm.
All right. Can you display that,
I'm working on
Oh,
it. It's moving
Tricia's raising
slow.
her hand.
Miss Fidrich?
She has to be unmuted.
Thank you, Kathy.
Okay, I just had a question about the April 7th meeting minutes that we needed to approve in order for Mary to put the waiver into the State Department. And I was just wondering if we could do that, during the agenda setting, it might give her just an extra couple days to get that thing moving.
What
Dr.
do you mean
Rodriguez,
during agenda setting?
if we could do that, added to this agenda for the work session.
Oh, it's already on there.
It is.
Yeah.
It is?
Mhm.
Yeah, we talked about
Under
it.
public comments.
Oh, okay, I'm sorry, I
Yeah.
didn't see it. Okay, thank you, I apologize.
No problem. David needs to be unmuted. Hey, Molly, can you allow before you get, David, hold on a second. Molly, can you not have the board members muted? Can you just allow them to mute and unmute? Is that possible?
No, it's all or nothing.
Okay, never mind.
Sorry.
Thank you. Okay, David.
I was just going to add to that. I think the April 21st meeting minutes are also referenced in Mary's letter. So you might want to move that up with the 7th, because I think they were both mentioned in the letter.
I think you are right, David. Good point. So
Okay, I'll
can
put
you
both
add
of
that to
I'll put
consent
them both
agenda?
on there.
Yeah, thank you. All right, now we're going to move on to the next business board meeting of May 5th, the agenda for that.
Hold on.
So you still have the work, there you go, thank you. All right. So we have executive session starting at 5 p.m. Dr. Rodriguez, if those two items, would there be need for having it for 60 minutes?
I don't think those typically take us 60 minutes. I think 30 minutes is probably fine. I think, we get a few questions, but I don't think it's, so I think 30 minutes is probably fine.
Okay. So Robin, do you think you could adjust that, please?
I'll change that to 5:30.
Yeah.
Under points of celebration,
Mm-hmm.
Mr. Parker wants to come in when school starts in August, so that needs to come off.
Okay.
So we will.
They're very generous with a donation that the board has to approve.
Yes.
Yeah.
Question.
Yes.
Thank you. I think last time there was a Parker's donation, we had to accept it, I believe. And I believe I made a motion to accept it, and there was a little bit of an issue that it wasn't underneath the right place on the agenda. Someone said it wasn't considered an emergency or exigent circumstance to make that motion to accept the donation. I can't recall what meeting it was. I think it was in Bluffton. It was one of our first meetings.
I agree with you, Rachel. I remember the discussion, yes. But I don't know if you just heard, it's not gonna be on the agenda now anyways.
Yeah, but when it does get added in the future, I'm telling Robin that it might need to be actually in two places.
It does. I just forgot to take it off the public, the points of celebration, because I wanted you to know, the board members to know that it's being moved to August.
Okay.
So it was my reminder. I'm sorry.
No, fine. Thank you. I just wanted to point that out. Thank you.
Yes. Thank you.
Tricia?
Trisha's muted, yeah.
Please unmute Tricia.
Yeah. Trisha, you're still on mute. Is your hand down?
Yeah.
Her hand is down. Okay, my hand is up.
Mine is up.
And Joanne's is up.
Okay.
Joanne?
Are you sure, Kathy, or are you next?
You know what, very quickly, I was just going to add, Trisha had sent us an email about recognizing our teachers for Teacher Appreciation Month.
Yeah.
So I don't know if we could put something in points of celebration there.
Great.
Okay. Okay, Joanne.
Excellent. I love the Teacher Recognition Month. The only other thing I was going to say is maybe an update from Wendy, Frank, if that's possible. I know everything's sort of frozen in the courts right now, and I know we have some things, out there, and if she could just give us an update. COVID has interrupted all of those cases. Thank you. That's my only request.
Is that for executive session?
Yes.
Yes.
Definitely.
Yeah.
Do we need to change the time then, or is it still enough time?
Well, I don't know. I'm going to have to talk with Wendy and find out how much of an update there is,
Okay, that sounds good. And then we'll adjust the time accordingly. Okay.
Yeah.
Sounds good. Thank you.
Also, It slipped my mind. I wrote it down. I was looking at my paper just now. Joanne mentioned the meeting about county council. I was going to say, could we still have in the work session? I was thinking that we probably, I know we moved to the agenda, but to this board meeting, but we possibly couldn't we get an update on that? Whether we hadn't got anything else from Ashley, being that Dr. Rodriguez said that he was going to speak to Ashley. Could we get that update on the work session agenda?
Excellent.
Did you get what I was saying?
Mr. Smith, is that a question to me or to the other officers?
To the other officers.
And what's your question?
Mrs. Orshak had asked for us to get an update on the it was the military, correct?
It's the impact fees.
I mean, excuse me, the impact, right? Excuse me, impact fees, right?
Am I recognized?
And my question was, could Dr. Rodriguez give us a impact fee update at the work session? Because he said that he was going to talk to Ashley, and whatever he would talk to her about, or whatever she would let him know, he would let us know publicly, so that we can let the community know that we are working on impact fees, or that we as a board we have.
May I say something, William? We already had this discussion in this meeting that the next step, what the board had decided by vote, majority vote, was to have a full Board of Education meeting with the full county council. And I have reached out to them again, and we don't have dates yet. So
Right.
that was supposed to be the next step, is a discussion with them.
Right, and being that the COVID-19 have hit, I think that we should possibly revisit it at this point in time, because that might not be able to be happen. That might not be able to happen due to COVID-19. But there's still things must still go on. So maybe the board needs to maybe we need to have a meeting of the minds and figure out another way, or what else could be done. So that's something that we may need to revisit. Even though the board made even though the board made that decision back then, we still may need to make another decision on it, because we're under different circumstances now.
Dr.
And Dr. Rodriguez said he was going to check with Ashley.
I think from my end, this is really an engagement between the two boards, and essentially it was a board initiative to reach out and communicate with county council. And the only thing I was saying was that I check with Ashley Jacobs and see if she's heard anything on her end. But essentially, I'm not trying, I don't know how to say it other than I don't want to overstep my bounds, in the sense that this was a board to council conversation. What I was just going to do is check and see if she's heard anything on her end yet.
Mr. Scrivener?
Yeah.
David?
Yes,
Yeah.
I was just going to reinforce it. This is a board. The next step is to meet with county council, whether it's full board to full board, or a subcommittee, or committee to committee. But that's the next step. There's really no alternative to that, because we have to choose one of those two options, and then they have to approve it. So there's really no latitude. And I'm not sure Ashley can help you too much on that one. I think Passman or Somerville would probably be the points, because they're the chair and the vice chair.
Well, then the board would still need to meet and make the decision, not at this point due to COVID, then not to meet as a full board on it, then have the two committees meet, or contact their liaison. But something needs to be done, because right now it's just sitting in the gallery, not doing anything. It's just floating in the water.
Well, I've spoken to both Passman and Somerville, so I can circle back, but we left it that they would get back to me. Ms. Robine, no, Earl, sorry, you haven't spoken.
I was just going to say that I think if you have already spoken to them and they haven't gotten back to you yet, then maybe you could see if you can contact them again.
Yeah, exactly.
And,
Thank you.
And because there's no way we're going to be able to meet for the next couple of months with county council.
Kathy?
Well, you know what, I think, I don't think that there's any urgency to this right now because of the dire economic straits that this COVID-19 has created for everybody. I think, I just don't think there's an urgency to start, talking about these fees again, because realistically, that's my comment.
David?
Actually, I think there is a time limit on how long the consultant's report is valid.
Oh, okay.
I'll double check that, but I think that if it goes beyond a certain point, you have to have another consultant, another survey done, and that was kind of expensive.
Yeah.
So I really think we should push county council and see, if Tino.
Yeah, I'll follow back up with them.
Call back and say, we just need to meet. If you can't meet as a full board, a committee or something.
Yeah.
Just get some agreement on the next step. And I'll double check and see what that time limit is on the validity of the consultant's report.
Good point, David.
All right, so continuing on this agenda that we're talking about, May 5th, or should be talking about. So we have teacher recognition under points of celebration, remove the Parker's donation. We've got the first public comments, chairman's report, approval of minutes, so the April 21 will come off, Robin.
Yes.
Thank you. Then committee reports, I guess it would only be if a committee met before then, which may happen, and we can add that if that's the case. So then we're down to the superintendent's report, and I'll let, so Frank, you've got basically two things there, the P-card audit results with Malden and Jenkins.
And the COVID-19 coronavirus update.
Yeah. So I would, as part of that update, I would request your recommendations for the high school graduations.
Yes.
How will the seniors be recognized?
Okay.
Okay, we're on to the board business action. And these look like some of the things we need to vote on. So I'll let Dr. Rodriguez go ahead with the 3 items.
Okay, one second. Sorry, just writing down.
Yeah.
Okay. The Power School InfoSnap contract extension, we're looking to extend that 1 year. This involves registrations, online registrations, and I just don't think with what we're in the midst of here, having that kind of a change take place where it can create additional difficulties for families and the system. So I'm looking to bring that InfoSnap for a contract extension. Brokerage services contract extension as well, and direction from the board regarding bond counsel.
So is there a, with the bond counsel, how the, maybe Tanya or Wendy has to answer this, how were the bids or whatever you call them, or was it a request for information, I think, as I recall? Dr. Rodriguez?
It was a request for interest in submitting, you know, an interest in becoming or in serving as bond counsel, so that the board would be able to have options.
And so none of this would be executive session material?
No,
I think so.
shouldn't be.
I'd have to check with
Yes,
Tanya.
Wendy and Tanya on that.
it is.
Ms.
Mrs.
Sorg?
Oshak has her hand up.
Yeah, this is definitely executive session material. The process has been, or at least this for the past several months, that we were putting out an informal request for information, resubmitting for bond counsel. That's definitely executive session. And
Yep.
the board hasn't seen what's come back yet as a result of that RFI. And I'm not certain what brokerage services is, so I'm not certain if that's executive session or not.
Yeah, I don't know what that is either.
Well, it's a contract, so it relates to a contract. So it could go in executive session for.
All right, so I think we need to go back to 5 p.m. or earlier at the executive session.
Yeah.
Add those two items, the brokerage and the bond counsel. Okay.
Probably.
The contract may as well, if it's got a
Yeah,
monetary amount to it.
The Power School.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So are we starting at 4:30 then?
I think so.
4:30 to midnight?
No.
I want to address that.
Bite your tongue.
All right. So we have, I see Dr. Wisniewski is in on this call.
Yes. Yeah.
And I'll let you speak, Dr. Wisniewski, but you had an agenda request regarding live dialogue between participating board members when the assembly is meeting. So go ahead and address that, Rachel.
Yes, I received a constituent email that was in regard to the use of cell phones and dialogue coming from communications to board members during live meetings, and there was a concern about that. I sent it to the board officers for their consideration because I wasn't sure if that was something that had happened prior and that was something that had already been dealt with and how it was handled in the past. And then the next morning I sent the email to the full board so that they could see the content and what was stated by the constituent. So I brought it forward for us to discuss publicly because I thought that it required the full board to discuss that topic and vet it, because I don't think there is a present policy on something like that. So I just wanted us to have a conversation around it.
So what would you like the bullet point to be under board business action?
I don't know, whatever you guys think the title is most appropriate. Live dialogue between board members and constituents during board meetings. I'm not really sure what would be an appropriate title. That's up to you guys. I just want
that would be fine, except for I wouldn't limit it to constituents. I would say live dialogue
the public. I don't know.
between public and individual board members. It's not between the whole board. Public and individual members, individual board members, while meeting or assembly is meeting while
during assembly. Yeah,
during assembly.
And so the full board should have the content of what that email was, so they can see exactly what the concern was, but it was someone in my community that sent it to me. And I just wanted everybody else to see it.
Okay.
Since there isn't presently a policy, I don't think.
Okay, Earl has his hand up.
Yes,
Mr. David.
And David.
And David, okay.
you know, I don't think we can control anyone
Oh,
from
point of
saying
order,
board,
Madam Chair.
a board member.
Madam Chair, point of order.
David? What's your point?
Well, I don't think we should get into discussing opinions just yet. That should be saved for the board meeting.
I agree.
But I do have my hand raised as I'm in the
Say whether it was appropriate or not.
Yes.
Fine.
So, Mr. Campbell, are you going to say something about this being on the agenda or not? I think your opinion regarding
Yes.
the matter should be.
I think it should be on the agenda. Yes.
You think it should?
Yeah.
Thank you. All right. So.
Did Mr. Strivinger? Joanne has her hand up, and I thought that Mr. Strivinger also had his.
I was just going to offer,
Okay.
offer a title. You already took care of it.
Okay, all right.
All right. And Robin,
Joanne?
that I'll go over it with you by phone.
Wait. Okay, Joanne had her hand up.
So just a suggestion, if we want to get specific, since there is no policy and it's not the sort of activity that law has regulated for the First Amendment, would we title the agenda item as development of a policy per
With your
yada,
opinion.
yada, yada?
No, I disagree with what you just said. That's your opinion that there's no policy. I disagree with that. So, no, I think it needs to be the way it is so then we can decide how.
Okay, so may I ask for clarification on how it's titled? I didn't catch that. I apologize.
It says live dialogue between public and individual board members during assembly.
Discussion on.
Yeah, fine.
Yeah, thank you. Okay,
Thank
that's fine. That's good. I appreciate it.
I think if the full board begins the conversation of it and they say, you know what, our will is send it to the policy.
Yeah, exactly.
Gotcha. Makes sense. Thank you.
Yeah.
That helps.
All right.
Madam Chair, Madam Chair, could you tell me what policy that will fall under? Because you said you disagree.
Well, we're not going to be discussing that now, but I'll be happy to discuss that.
No, let me tell you why I'm asking that. Because if we're going to put this on the agenda, then I want to know that there is an actual policy to vote, because that will determine whether I will support putting this on the agenda or not. That's why. So that does have merit. Because the merit is, you said that there is that isn't a policy, and that we do have a policy on it. And if we don't have a policy on it, then I won't support putting it on the agenda, because I don't think this is a conversation that needs to be had.
Mr. Smith, we have public comments on our agenda. We have public comments.
Right.
There are policies regarding how the public comments while the board is assembled, and that's when the board has power and authority. So that, yes, we do, and that's what I'm referring to.
Thank you.
And the email was sent. Okay. Okay, no problem. Thank you.
You're very welcome. Now I have a request for the time of these last two board meetings, the business meetings, has to me become almost, I don't want to use the word ridiculous, but it's unfair to really to everyone in my mind. It's unfair to board because they are so lengthy. And to remind those of you that are participating today and listening today, on April 7th, our meeting was over 6 hours, the public session. Then we came back the next night and had over 3 hours, or as I recall, or approximately 3 hours. Then our last meeting earlier this week, we had an hour, not quite an hour, but it was scheduled for an hour of executive session, and then 6.5 hours of of public session. One is people are fatigued. I don't think people have good thinking skills or decision-making once we're sitting there for that period of time. It's so long. We also have to remember, besides the board members and the public, the staff.
Right.
And I don't know if the board members know this, but I know that one of our assistants to the board had to go pick up a toddler after midnight, after one of our meetings. I just think that's just, that's inconsiderate. And also the staff has to get up the next day and come to work fairly early. So there's a few board members that have to get up early and go to work. I just think we have to have some way to put a handle on not having such long meetings. And I realize there's this whole consideration of limiting to the debate. And a lot of it requires self-discipline by each and every board member to only, comment on the items that that they feel that they have some kind of input that's extremely important, and obviously not rehash everything. So I would like to have that on this agenda under board business, is how are we going to set the time of these meetings to, I think it's too long the way we have it right now.
Correct. I agree.
Okay, Rachel?
She has to be unmuted.
Yeah.
Okay, can you hear me?
Yes.
Yep.
Yeah. Thank you, Madam Chair, for bringing this forward. I've heard this from the public as well, that they can't even, stay on to keep informed that late at night. I definitely appreciate everybody's comments, and I would never want to restrict a board member's ability to, give their input. But I do think we need to figure out a happy medium for these meetings. And I would like to also state that I believe when we first started talking about doing the Zoom meetings and minimizing them, there is a compounding issue with conducting them electronically and the amount of fatigue that it puts on people. There's actually been studies that are being conducted on it right now and articles being written on it. So I would encourage us to figure out a way to limit at least the Zoom meetings for now, if we can, because I do think it affects cognitive ability to, participate. So that's my 2 cents.
Okay, thank you. Ms. Orshak?
Point of order, we shouldn't discuss the details of this, Dr. Wisniewski, but what I would suggest is to remind everyone, we had a board session workshop on this. I remember Mrs. Robine had a flip chart. We already discussed methods to limit the length of meetings. We're doing this again. Is it worth putting on a board meeting again? I mean, I thought all suggestions have already been submitted. So just a reminder, this has already been done.
It has.
Okay, go ahead, Mr. Smith. I'll call it for you.
Madam Chair, I don't know if you remember, but in the last meeting, I suggested that we broke the meeting up into 2 as of how we did work sessions at the meeting prior. And I remember your response was to me, no, we want to just go ahead and do the meeting, the whole meeting in one day. So
okay, we're getting into, so.
No, because what Ms. Orshak said is correct, and they turned it over to the officers. And so the officers, we're setting the agenda right now. So in terms of setting the agenda, I'm saying that I make a I need to. I make a motion that we have the meeting in 2 nights. That we separate the meeting within 2 nights. I make a motion that we second the meeting in 2 nights.
Devil's advocate, Mr. Smith, what makes you think that that's going to make the meeting shorter? There's no guarantee that's going to make the meeting shorter.
Are you going to second it for discussion?
No, that's a rhetorical question. Devil's advocate. My answer to since I was next in the queue, my answer to Ms. Orshak is, yes, we did have that discussion, and the officers were charged to limit the meetings more than the board members, really, by that discussion. That discussion was before anybody had any idea that we would be meeting via video conferencing Zoom. That did not take place when this whole video conferencing issue came into effect. I don't think anybody last fall ever thought that we'd be having video conferencing meetings, you know, perhaps month after month. We don't know. That's my comment back. Mr. Stribinger?
Yeah, I was just going to suggest that the title of the would be to revisit, because Joanne's right. We went through this, we gathered ideas, but the environment has changed. So maybe just call it revisit suggestions for shortening the meetings.
Okay.
I still have the sheet. I pulled it out the other day.
Thank you, Kathy.
Rachel?
She needs to be unmuted.
About to say it's okay. You don't have to. Am I muted?
You're good now, Rachel.
No, I was just trying to make clear. I wrote it in the chat box that I was simply indicating my support for discussing this with regard to Zoom meetings. It was, I know that we talked about it, but I was indicating my support that it's a twist. It's a little bit different now.
Yeah.
All right, Mr. Smith?
I would still like to say, as an officer, that as an officer, I believe, I said last meeting that the meeting would have been long, and I said that we should split it up. And I've been saying this to the board. So I've been saying this even during the regular board meetings, when our meetings were saying that our meetings were too long, that we have as a board, we have the authority to have emergency meetings or to add another meeting to our monthly meetings. But for some reason, some people, it seems like, don't want to do that. So what I'm saying is, I'm asking the two other officers that I think the next meeting needs to be split up into two. And that's my suggestion going into anything that we're going to. I think this agenda is too long. It needs to be over 2 days. So that's my suggestion moving into it. Now, whether y'all want to do it or not is up to y'all, but as an officer, that is my suggestion. And I suggested that the last time.
Yeah.
I'm sorry?
Oh, he was addressing the office.
I'm just saying, I think that we can discuss that when when it's on the agenda on May 5th.
Actually, I'm asking the officers to discuss it, Kathy, if you don't mind. I'm asking your input as an officer, not as a board member. I'm asking as an officer, what is your opinion on it?
But, well, go ahead, Kathy.
Well, my opinion, William, is when I look at the agendas, most times I think that they're doable in a reason no later than 10 o'clock. But, you know, I haven't been very accurate with that. So, Joanne has her hand raised.
Mr. Campbell's first. Earl.
Okay, Mr. Campbell.
Yes. I think that the board should make that decision and not just the officers.
Exactly.
You know, that's just my.
Ms. Orshak, you have your hand up.
Tina, this is for you. Will made a motion. Did you ask for a second?
I didn't hear a motion.
I did make a motion. I did. And you told me rhetorically, the answer was no.
I didn't hear you.
I said, are you seconding the motion for discussion? And you said rhetorically the answer was no. That's exactly what your answer was. Yes, ma'am. Yes, ma'am. Yes, ma'am. Yeah, she's correct.
Can you repeat your motion, William, please?
I didn't think it was I thought it was a rhetorical question. So go ahead. Tell me what your motion was.
I said my motion was for us to have this agenda break up into 2 days.
Okay. Is there a second for that? Your motion does not have a second.
Thank you.
You're welcome. Let's see. Ms. Orshak?
I just want to remind our officers that a second does not signal approval. It only opens the door for discussion. That's it. So you may disapprove of Mr. Smith's motion, but by not seconding it, you are saying it is not even worthy of discussion. That's all. I just wanted to clarify.
We already discussed it. So
yeah, I disagree with your assessment, Ms. Orshak. That's your opinion. We've already said that we think the discussion should be a board discussion, not an officer discussion. Maybe you didn't hear that part of it, but we have said that. It's not that we think it's not worthy of discussion. We do. We think it should be the full board, not just us.
No, she was correct. They don't think it's worthy.
All right. So David, can you had good wording. Can you just say it again?
I think it was revisit the suggestions for shortening board meetings.
And then I think we should also include something about Zoom in there.
Yeah, given the environmental changes.
Yeah, that's a good last part. Given, okay, so did you get that, Robin? I've written it down if you didn't.
I'm working on it.
Okay.
Revisit our suggestions for shortening board meetings given the environmental changes.
Yeah. All right. Are there any other, I think that's, do you, William, as the secretary, have any other outstanding agenda items?
No, I didn't, Madam. I didn't, Madam Chair. But Robin, did you get into? Do you have any? Do you have any, Robin?
No, I do not.
And Kathy?
Okay.
No, everything that has been submitted, according to my records, has been dealt with or taken off the table.
Okay, thank you. And I agree. I have a running list, and same thing. There's nothing outstanding. And we got several agenda requests since our meeting Tuesday.
May I add something?
Ms. Orshak?
The Port Royal piece, we had Hilton Head come forward with their TIF, but Port Royal has not. Is that something you might consider going forward?
They were not available.
Yes, I know, but I'm saying going forward.
Yeah, to get them to come in.
Yes, thank you
All
so
right, so
much.
let's reach out to them, Robin. Could you do that?
Yes.
And see when they have availability, please?
Mrs. Orshak, could you email that to me as well and CC Robin on that?
Yes.
Thank you.
All right. Is there a motion to adjourn?
I move we adjourn.
And I will second that.
I have a question. I have a question first.
Okay.
Do we still need to have the meeting on Monday since we've basically completed the May 5th meeting? Do we still need to meet Monday?
For additional agenda setting, you mean?
Correct.
I don't think so,
Or
because
are we going to wait until
meetings.
well, okay.
What was the response? I'm sorry, I didn't hear it.
I said we covered the 2 meetings today. We weren't sure if we would be able to do both agenda settings at one time.
Right.
Okay. All right. Any further discussion for adjourning? All right. All in favor?
Aye.
Motion, meeting adjourned.